So, I just finished the Saints Row Reboot story mode, and
Goat balls, cow balls, giant sweaty horse balls.
It could use some work. Looking past the broken physics, spongy enemies, and gratuitous gameplay glitches, it becomes painfully obvious that there are glimmers of hope sprinkled here and there, and dare I say, the story is no exception.
They really make you stronger.
Yeah, they really do.
I want to know what that feels like.
Well, let's go!
So instead of ranting about how bad the plot is, let's analyze and try to fix it, by turning what could have been into what should have been, saving the sanity of several Saints Row stands by scourging this sanitized story.
Jayniac.
Okay, so right off the bat there's a problem. We aren't given an introduction to our main characters. They're just already roommates, and not the kind of roommates that get on each other's nerves because of their different upbringings and outlooks on life. Nah, they just get along very well. A little too well. There's no conflict between any of them. This is especially surprising, considering that they're from different gangs. Kevin's with the Idols, Nina's with Los Panteros, the boss is with Marshall, who's not actually a gang but a military group, and Eli's with... It's hard to get a feel for what makes each character distinct if they're always agreeing with each other. Sure, they can all believe in the same cause, but they really shouldn't all be best friends.
Troy, you dealing with the Vice Kings?
Not a chance.
You say?
Man, that. I'll take King out.
Johnny, it's not that simple.
Bullets still kill, right? Doesn't get much simpler than that.
Keep an eye on your boy.
I don't need a babysitter, Julius.
Keep an eye on your boy.
So let's change that. The only roommate you know at the beginning of the game is Eli, the business-minded college student who moved to Santo Ileso to open a business hoping to eventually pay off his student loans, and he is the only character that should be motivated by this. As for the boss, at the beginning of the game, they should already be promoted as head of museum security for Marshall, so that instead of having one mission where they fight and capture the nahualli, and another mission where they protect the Codex from all two of the gangs, ultimately resulting in them being fired, we can have both events at the same time. Try to imagine the Idols, Los Panteros, and the Nahualli's gang all fighting for the Codex in the opening mission. The only line of defense? The boss in a face-concealing helmet, and their martial troops. Not only would that be exhilarating, it would introduce the player to all three gangs while also introducing them to the gameplay mechanics. Some enemies have shields, some enemies need heavier weapons to take them down, stuff like that. After finally getting the Codex, the boss gets intercepted by one rookie idol with a mask on and a waffle tattoo. This rookie puts up a good fight, but the boss defeats him and tells him he's still got a lot to learn. The boss looks for the Codex and sees the nahualli is holding it. He gets in his car and the boss chases him in a Marshall APC, introducing the player to vehicular combat. The vehicle catches on fire, so the boss jumps out of it and activates their wingsuit, teaching the player how to use it. They land on the nahualli's car, arrest him, and grab the Codex, only to realize it was a fake. The nahualli gave the real one to one of his gang members, and was only acting as a distraction. More on this later. The boss returns to HQ and is congratulated for stopping the nahualli, but is fired for losing the priceless artifact. They get told to hit the showers and collect their things, and now the player gets to customize their character. Since all the footage I have of me playing the game is from my Twitch streams, where you should totally go and watch me, I'll be using footage from GamerWolf's playthrough. Go ahead and show them some love, tell them Jayniac sent you. Anyway, the boss leaves the Marshall building and takes a taxi home. On the way, they talk to the driver, who mentions that they heard Los Panteros was attacking the museum last night. The driver turns on the radio and plays a song that they and the boss both recognize. The two start singing together, and once they arrive at the house, the boss says, "We should do this again sometime. What's your name?" To which the driver responds with, "Nina." "And yours is?" But right before the boss can say their name, Eli yells for the boss to hurry upstairs. The two then exchange numbers, and the boss goes upstairs to see what's up. Eli tells them that their new next-door neighbor has been playing loud music since they moved in. He wants the boss to tell the neighbor to turn the music down since, Eli's not that intimidating. The boss knocks on the door and the neighbor walks out, and since their neighbor is shirtless, the boss notices their waffle tattoo, acting as our introduction to Kevin. Now, before I continue, we really gotta change some things about Kevin. His personality feels so unnatural, almost like a bunch of random ideas being taken off of a checklist. He likes cooking, he's a DJ, he hates shirts, he's an orphan, he's allergic to cats, and he's part of a post-capitalist gang? Why? None of these things correlate to each other, making Kevin feel more like a bunch of quirks rather than a real person. Kevin says less shirt equals more power, but none of the idols, except for the collective, wear shirts anyway. So is that a Kevin thing, or is that more of a gang thing? It's never made clear. The first thing I'd change about Kevin is his personality. What we currently have is an eccentric party animal that cares about his looks, so how about this instead? Keep his party tendencies and his vanity, but crank it up to 11. Make Kevin a boisterous and arrogant rookie gang member that thinks he's hot stuff, not realizing that he's way in over his head, but that doesn't stop him from being a good fighter. Instead of those gains being just for looks, Kevin is a scrapper. Having been an orphan growing up in foster homes and maybe even on the streets, Kevin knows how to handle himself. Oh, and one more thing, keep his love life the same. It'd be a nice way to break away from campy stereotypes. Anyway, Kevin answers the door and the boss says to turn the music down. Kevin retorts with, "Or what?" The boss leans in and says, "Or I'll tell the landlord you're with the idols." Shocked, Kevin slams the door and turns the music down. The boss goes back and tells Eli what happened, then they have an idea. Eli, what if I stole the Codex back from the Nahualli's gang? They'd have no choice but to rehire me. Eli disagrees and pulls out his whiteboard to explain better options, like getting a different job. The boss refuses, and Eli says, "Think about it for a second, who's gonna back you up against an entire gang?" The boss thinks, and we smash cut to Kevin opening his door, and the boss saying, "We need your help." So basically, the boss and Eli enlist the help of Kevin and a few low-level idols to rob the Nahualli's gang. When Kevin asks what's in it for him, the boss tells him that it could get Kevin and his team more respect within the idols. It'll be post-capitalist AF, and that it'll be one hell of a party. When Eli asks why he's tagging along, the boss tells him they need to look out for the cops and assure him that he'll be away from the action. The team hits up the Nahualli's gang and loses. Some of Kevin's gang members die and the boss is being attacked by a Nahualli gang member, but before they can give the finishing blow, Eli shoots them. Having never done something like that before, he freaks out, but with no time to help him, the boss shouts for Kevin to call the getaway driver, to which Kevin responds with, "They shot the driver when we got here." Panicking, the boss pulls out their phone and calls the only person they could think of, Nina, who tells them that she's on her way. The player fights off waves of enemies as Kevin's remaining idol teammates retreat. Nina arrives, the crew gets in, and while the player fights off the Nahualli's gang, chasing them, Nina shows off her getaway driving skills. The boss, Eli, Kevin, and Nina get back to the apartment. Everyone's breathing hard. They all sit down, look around the room, and laugh. They each start talking about how amazing that was and how good of a team they were. They ask where Nina learned how to drive, and she tells them that she's with Los Panteros. Kevin's whole demeanor changes, and he starts insulting Los Panteros. Nina gets up and starts yelling back about the idols. The two leave the apartment, and Eli starts having a breakdown. Why should the idols, the Nahualli's gang, and Los Panteros have all the fun? Suits like me work all our lives to get even a fraction of what they get in a day. They take what they want when they want it, and I'm just supposed to be okay with that? Nah, this isn't fair. It's unjust. The boss responds with, "You're right. Someone needs to tip the scales. Justice is blind, but my bullet never misses." Yeah, but mine do. Any chance you could teach me how to use a gun? And thus, the two come up with the idea of the Third Street Saints, bringing justice in an unjust world. In Saints Row 1, Julius started the Saints as a sort of anti-gang. They were a gang that stopped other gangs that were getting out of control. So for the reboot, take the same idea but put a little spin on it. At this point in our story rewrite, the boss and Eli are on the same page about what the Saints should be and what they should look like. But over the course of the game, they steadily disagree. The boss wants to take down Marshall and the Nahualli's gang as a personal vendetta, but Eli wants to take over all of Santo Ileso. Why, you ask?
What can I say? The world is full of uninteresting people, and I'm not going to be one of them.
It's crazy to me that there are a few lines of dialogue that hint towards Eli becoming more unhinged as the game progresses. While playing good cop, bad cop with the boss, Eli takes things a bit too far playing bad cop. So how come that's never explored? Honestly, a character like Eli can work if you ditch the LARPing and have him gradually become more sociopathic, not caring for what he sees as the lesser gang members' lives, even if they're on his own team. The only one who he cares about is the boss. That is, until the end of the game. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now, let's talk about some quality of life fixes. Since this is the start of a new gang, instead of blocking progress with criminal ventures, block it with loyalty missions and respect. Have all missions relate to recruiting different kinds of people, basically contextualizing every crazy side activity you do as a way of proving yourself and getting street cred, similar to Saints Row 2. While we're at it, since Eli is the boss's second in command, give all the gangs one. This is the first Saints Row game with one named role in each gang. Los Panteros has Sergio and the Idols have the Collective, leading their respective gangs. And we know nothing about them. In previous titles, the rival gangs had their own cutscenes, giving the player not only a good idea of who they were up against, but also their reason for wanting to be in a gang in the first place. In any story involving conflict, the antagonist has to have a clear motivation for us to care about them. This motivation is usually expressed through dialogue with other characters that are important to them. None of these bosses in Saints Row Reboot talk to their gangs. We don't see Sergio with his muscle heads discussing what they'll do next. We don't see the Collective partying together, hatching a plan to take over more districts. No, all of that happens off screen, so we're just expected to assume things. How about we have Nina be Sergio's best mechanic and the one that he can always rely on, so when she betrays him and joins the Saints, it hits him a lot harder, giving Los Panteros more reason to fight the Saints. On the flip side, Kevin, who is just a low-ranking idol, gets kicked out after getting members killed during that failed nahualli hit. Kevin will be one of your first lieutenants, but it takes him a while to warm up to you since the nahualli hit was your idea. Which brings us to the nahualli himself. About halfway through our game's story, the boss initiates a temporary truce between all the gangs so that they can collectively take down Marshall, who is now killing anyone even wearing gang colors. The Collective and Sergio convince their respective gang members to lay low until the boss gives the signal to wipe out Marshall, but the boss can't give the signal without the nahualli on their side. So, the Saints break the nahualli out of prison, just like in the real game, except this time, something's different. The boss approaches the nahualli and tells him what's up, but the nahualli says he's not interested. The boss tells him that they're the one who put him in jail to begin with, so maybe his gang is as weak as he is. But the nahualli tells the boss that he let Marshall put him in jail on purpose, because someone in that prison has information on the Codex. More specifically, its buyer. Do you know what the Codex is? What it says? Well, Marshall had plans to sell it to the highest bidder. Anyone willing to spend that much money on the Codex must know its secrets. The security alarm goes off, the boss tells the nahualli he can keep the Codex if they get out, so the two escape with the help of the other Saints. You want to know what the Codex is, right? Don't worry, I'll get to it. The Idols, Los Panteros, the nahualli's gang, and the Saints all work together to permanently stop Marshall, even killing Atticus. Each gang walks their separate ways with a nod of respect, knowing that the truce is now over and Santo Ileso is fair game. The rest of the game involves the player recruiting more members and shutting down the other three gangs by any means necessary. Once the Saints are the only surviving gang, they throw a party. Everything's fine until shots are fired. Members of the Saints are massacring other members on the dance floor. Bullets are flying everywhere, the place is on fire, so the boss yells for Kevin, Eli, and Nina to find a way out. Eli tells them to get to a hidden rooftop a few buildings over. The four arrive and frantically yell about what just happened, when suddenly Eli shoots all three of them. Not fatally, just enough to immobilize them. Eli starts raving about how they've overstayed their welcome and that the Saints will be better under his control. Why stop with Santo Ileso when they can expand beyond that? It'd be the business opportunity of a lifetime. Before anyone can retaliate, some Saints rookies tie up Nina, Kevin, and the boss after putting a bag over their head. So yeah, Eli betrays you all. He's taking things too far and is convinced that under his leadership the Saints can be more than just a gang. In Saints Row 1, Julius tries to kill the boss for taking things too far, but here Eli tries to kill the boss for not taking them far enough. The foreshadowing was already there, so I don't know why they didn't do this. But yes, for the final act of Saints Row's reboot, the gang you have to defeat is your own. For the first time ever in Saints Row, you have to fight the Saints. The boss, Kevin, and Nina are on the run trying to figure out how to beat Eli. Blah blah blah, they figure it out, and the boss and Eli are on the rooftop. They have a standoff, and Eli says, "None of this would have happened if you saw the bigger picture." The boss retorts with, "None of this would have happened if you stayed out of the action." Eli laughs and says, "You wanted to stick it to Marshall, you wanted to fight the nahualli, I gave you options, you got me into this mess, and now you're mad at me? 'Cause I'm running things better than you? Huh. I was just a businessman. In the world of crime and injustice, you taught me everything I know." The boss responds with, "Yeah, but not everything I know." An epic shootout occurs with dialogue reminiscent of the time the boss taught Eli how to shoot a gun. Police helicopters surround the place, filming everything that happens. In the end, the boss kills Eli and says, "Blood in, blood out." And that is how the game ends. Unless, of course, you get 100% completion, in which case you'll get a secret ending. Instead of a musical number of freaking Love Shack, the secret ending has a police officer bringing the Codex to their chief of police, sitting behind a big chair. The chief watches news footage of what happened on the rooftop, and the officer puts the Codex on the chief's desk with the pages open. The camera zooms into those pages, showing pictures of Julius, Dex, Lynn, Carlos, Shondi, Pierce, Kinsey, and Asha from the previous Saints Row games. The officer says, "We got the Codex. Do you know anything about this, Chief?" Police Chief Johnny Gat turns around with a shotgun in hand and says, "Course I do. You can't expect a sinner to kill a saint." Roll credits. Basically, the Codex connects all the timelines in the Saints Row universe. Johnny, being responsible for the timeline change, clearly knows this. None of his memories were altered, so it'd be interesting to see where he could go from here. If you want, you can even tie it back to Red Faction and Agents of Mayhem some way. I find it absolutely ridiculous that the Codex is something that we chase throughout the entire game, and yet we have no idea what it does or what it says. There's a lot of decisions in this game I really don't understand. Love Shack? 100% completion for Love Shack? $8 million for Love Shack? None of that is worth your time or money. But you know what is? My social media, but especially Twitch if you want to see me live stream. I played this game on Twitch, so like, if there's any other games you want me to play, go ahead, go over there, give me a follow, and I'll hear from you, I guess. If you like hearing my voice, be sure to check out the Junior and Marcus Talk podcast, where we talk about just about anything. If you don't like my voice, I put out an instrumental album today, so go ahead and check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. There's other links too, like my Discord, whatever. More importantly, check out the merchandise. There will be new stuff at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. Please give it a look and let me know if there's anything you'd like. So, what should I talk about next? You guys let me know in the comments down below. Until then, I'll leave you with this.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that every now and again a situation arises that defies explanation. And so it was with the ascension of the 3rd Street Saints. When the Saints made their presence known to the world in 2006, they were decried for being pretenders to the throne. The people were confused. Were the Saints sociopathic killing machines hell-bent on destruction? Or puckish rogues living a life of mirth and whimsy? The Saints needed clarity of purpose, and so the course was set. More fun, less mercy killing.